Another crazy week in the NFL's in the books. What's going on, guys? I'm Dustin. Welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. You know, a lot like in real football, in fantasy you have to adapt with what's going on in the league right now. And that couldn't be any more true with just the craziness that we're seeing. Teams like the Giants with all the offensive weapons getting shut out. Teams like the Browns and the Jets, whose offenses on paper don't look that great, but they're putting up points. And then teams like the Jags, who are so bad, they actually have value because of all the junk time that they get in, the second half of the game, playing against pretty much second-string defenses, it seems. But you got to adapt. But let's go ahead and talk about the waiver wires. Talk about the must-adds in all leagues. And a lot of must-add running backs, I feel, this week, but none that are really worth using a great waiver number on, but a lot of decent temporary solutions. We'll start with the mess going on out there with Atlanta. But it's not a bad mess as long as you don't own Steven Jackson. But Jacquizz Rodgers, Jason Snelling, talked about these guys last week. Both these guys are worth adding in all leagues at this point. Again, I wouldn't use a great waiver number since it's somewhat of a temporary solution. But with the latest news about Jackson, could be out till week 7. These guys should give you some solid value for the next few weeks. I still like Snelling just a little bit more. Fred Jackson's another guy that needs to be owned in all leagues at this point. Pretty much there. He's owned in about 70% of leagues, but in those leagues that he's not owned, all you CJ Spiller owners, you need to pick up Fred Jackson. Spiller just keeps getting banged up, and Jackson's going to be the guy to own if Spiller goes down. Bilal Powell's another guy you're going to want to take a look at, only on 50% of leagues. I talked about him last week as well. He had a great week 3, and with Ivory banged up now, Powell's really going to be the man out there. And like I said before, the Jets offense actually getting things going a little bit. They haven't looked terrible. Isaiah Pedes, another guy you're going to want to pick up. Dale Richardson has already come out and said that he thinks he can play week 4, but this is already kind of a sticky situation between Pedes and Richardson because Richardson hasn't played that great. Pete basically got the start, didn't get the start, but basically got all the carries week 3 after Richardson re-injured his toe, re-injured his foot. But here's the thing, it's so close, you need to own Pete and stash him on your bench, see what happens. Because there's a chance that he could take over that job even if Richardson does come back and is healthy. So Pete needs to be owned in more leagues at this point. Got a must-add receiver for you, and that's Josh Gordon. I really did not see that performance coming from him. With the inexperienced quarterback on that offense who didn't have Trent Richardson, but Gordon played amazing. I mean, very much maybe an audition for him for the Browns, because they're definitely trying to trade him at this point. So depending on where he lands, it could be a better situation, might be slightly worse depending on how much competition he has for targets, but only on 70% of leagues right now. This guy needs to be owned until we see what happens. One must-add in all PPR leagues, and that's Devon Best. So he's out there in Cleveland as well. If Gordon gets shipped out of town, that's not going to leave that many weapons for the Browns. They got Cameron still. But I think Best is going to be a big part of that offense through the air. He already has 28 targets this year, so I like him as must-add. And in PPR leagues, he could be a decent, guy to stash on your bench, the guy that can, almost certainly give you 8 to 10 points each week. Not a bad bye-week fill-in with a little bit of upside there. Let's talk about some people to add in deeper leagues. Let's go back to the running backs. Jonathan Franklin's a guy I like as a guy to add in deeper leagues, only on 10% of leagues. Green Bay running backs just keep dropping like flies. Franklin is a great runner, but what they're saying the deal is with him, he's not that great in pass protection. Had that costly fumble week 3, so I really think if Lacey or Starks are ready to go, then they're going to get the start. But if not, Franklin could be a decent short-term solution for you. And now let's talk about the mess in New England. I've talked about in these waiver wire shows how crazy the running back situations are across the league. We'll add one more to the mix, and that's New England. You got to be taking a look at Brandon Bolden and LeGarrette Blount right now, with Ridley kind of seems to be getting phased out almost. I think it's just going to be a nasty timeshare, unfortunately. But in deeper leagues, Blount and Bolden could be decent, bye-week fill-ins for you, and who knows what they're actually going to do long-term. But I like Blount a little more in standard leagues, and I like Bolden a little bit more in PPR leagues. But both those guys are getting enough touches to be fantasy relevant at this point. Let's talk about some receivers in deeper leagues. Stephen Hill, only on 10% of leagues right now. Again, Jets offense starting to look a little bit better. Hill's one of the biggest bright spots right now in that offense, so I like his upside moving forward in deeper leagues. Cordero Patterson, only on 20% of leagues right now. The Vikings have said that they're going to get him more involved in the offense, and they did week 3. He's still got a little bit of ways to go before he has a ton of value as far as his playing time goes. He just needs to be out on the field more. But any leagues that count return yards, you might want to be looking at Patterson. I like his upside. Aaron Dobson's another guy I wanted to talk about, only on 25% of leagues. This guy has had 10 targets in 2 straight games. Now, he hasn't done a ton with those targets, but it's hard to ignore that. We like Dobson just a little bit more in the preseason before Tompkins beat him out for that starting gig. But Dobson's a talented receiver. He's definitely got an upside. We'll see what happens once Gronkowski comes back. But one of those rookie receivers is going to have value for New England. It could be hit or miss each week, but I think Dobson is worth a look in deeper leagues. And with bye week starting next week, we need to start talking about pick up and play players. You got Cam Newton and Aaron Rodgers on bye weeks next week, so you might be looking for some quarterback help. I got 2 for you that I think are worth picking up. Alex Smith has a matchup against the Giants. He's only on about 50% of leagues right now, so if you're looking for a pick up and play quarterback, I don't mind Alex Smith on the 3-0 Chiefs. Pretty crazy. And also Terrell Pryor. He's going up against Washington, so you gotta like that for week 4. He's only on about 30% of leagues right now, so not a bad pick up and play quarterback for you if you have one of yours on a bye week. And one pick up and play defense, and I'm going with the Colts. It's their turn to play the Jags, one of the worst teams in the league, one of the worst offenses in the league. Indy's D, it's been decent as far as fantasy points go. They've been pretty consistent throughout the year, so I like their chances week 4 as a pick up and play defense. Now, this is just a portion of the list. To see the full list, get on the site. And as always, if you got any questions, post them in the forums. See you later this week.